Welcome everyone to the Sewer Council meeting of Norfolk Island Regional Council, being held today on the 7th of June 2021, primarily to discuss three items: the draft budget and operational plan for 2021-22, the draft financial statements for 2019-20, and a proposal for community waste management fee for 2021-22. And I will start by asking the General Manager to recite the statement of respect.
Thanks, Mr. Administrator. The Norfolk Island Regional Council promotes a climate of respect for all. We will endeavour to inspire in the community shared civic pride by valuing and protecting our unique culture and environment, both natural and built, for the current and future generations. We, the Administrator and staff of the Norfolk Island Regional Council, undertake to act with honesty and integrity to conduct ourselves in a way that engenders trust and confidence in the decisions we make and the actions we take on behalf of the Norfolk Island community. We acknowledge the Norfolk Island people, the traditional custodians of this island.
Just for the record, Mr. General Manager, I ask if there are any apologies.
Nil.
I'll ask if there are any disclosures of interest.
Nil.
And any requests for public access. As I mentioned before, there are three items on the agenda for this afternoon's meeting. I'm going to start with item 8.1 because it really needs to be determined before we go into the operational plan and budget report. So I'm going to resolve, I'll go slowly forward, I'm going to resolve that item 8.1 be brought forward and dealt with as the first item of business at the meeting. So resolved, and I'll move to item 8.1, Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. This is for Mr. Wickett to give you a briefing on the proposal.
Just again for the record, this is a report on the proposed community waste management fee in regards to the external audit findings number 27 to 28. Mr. Wickett.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. The paper before you is a proposal for community waste management fee for FY22 to assist in covering operational waste management costs, including the cost of break and dispose of all recyclable waste streams on mainland Australia. So by way of background, NERC's recent experience of exporting waste and recyclables to mainland Australia, while necessary, confirms the high costs associated with transport and disposal. If I just draw your attention to table 1, for this financial year to date, to 31 May, our operating expenditure is over a total of $1.5 million, including $500,000 for operational waste management centre and close to $1 million already for freight and disposal. I guess by way of our current revenue, the predominant form of revenue that we gain with regards to waste is by the waste levy. It's part of the Waste Management Act and Waste Management Regulation. It's currently set at $41 per cubic metre per tonne, which is graded by air or sea freight. We also have levies pertaining to both livestock and vehicles.
So the rate on the freight, if I could just interrupt you, is a rate per cubic metre or per tonne on inward freight correct to the island.
And that's our predominant form of revenue. So for this year, for FY21, year to date, I think we've been having the order of about $450,000 of revenue pertaining to that waste levy. And that is inflated compared to what the projected income would be for that for FY22, mostly because we had barge movement earlier in the financial year, which pushed up that levy. And it's unclear at this stage as to whether we will be receiving barge movements in the coming financial year. So we actually project that for FY22, our waste levy will be less than what we have currently received for FY21.
And you're interrupted, you so keep going.
So I guess based on the freight and disposal estimates for the forthcoming year, we recognise that changes must be made to the way Norfolk Island Regional Council charge the community, including local businesses for waste management. As I mentioned before, we forecast a waste levy revenue of around $428,000 for FY22, based on 6 ship movements, so 6,600 tonnes, 920 tonnes of air freight, and delivery of 120 vehicles. With regards to the export of waste, we budget that we would need over $1 million next year for the freight and disposal or delivery of recyclables to recycling centres for FY22. And this is based on our estimate, based on loading up 15 tonnes of waste every fortnight. And it could potentially, in fact, be greater than that, or the demand for that could be greater than that should we produce more waste. We think that's a conservative estimate. The current air freight charge has been applied, which is $1.20 per kilogram, and that is a rate that is provided to us by the freight handler at Fine Travel, and their service is subsidised by the Australian government. So we in effect have a subsidised rate of freight to deliver that waste back to mainland Australia. So for FY22, we're proposing to charge a community waste management fee, which would be an annual fee and applied to residents, businesses and tourist accommodation on their rates notice. The fee would not apply to farmland or lots with no residential or business properties on them. If I just draw your attention to table 2 of the business paper, Mr. Administrator, it sets out what the proposed fee would be, which is $300 for residential dwellings, $75 per bed for tourist accommodation, and $300 per business. But for each of those fees, a nominal number of waste disposal tickets would be provided to residents, businesses and tourist accommodation premises after paying that community waste management fee, and that is set out in table 3 of the business paper. The waste disposal ticket allocation per fee is $104 for both residential dwellings and businesses, and $20 per bed for tourist accommodation. It should be recognised at the same time that as part of the proposed fees and charges, the disposal fees are proposed to be increased for FY22 to assist in covering forecast waste management costs. For example, the standard disposal fee for residents to dispose of 120 litres of general waste has been increased to $4. It's currently $2. I think it's also important to recognise, Mr. Administrator, that the estimated actual cost of transporting and disposing of each 120 litre bag of general waste, we estimate to be over $15 for a 120 litre bag, and that doesn't factor in the cost of running the waste management system. So if we factor in that cost, our estimate is that it would actually be closer to $35 to manage that waste, freight and dispose of on land. So for the community waste management fee, we are also proposing that a rebate will be available to residents and businesses for unused tickets. And this rebate would not be available to access until the commencement of Q4, so 1st of March 2022, and any unused tickets would need to be returned by the end of the financial year. It's hoped that the opportunity for rebate would result in positive behaviour of waste reduction, resulting obviously in a reduction in forecast waste disposal costs. So in summary, a projected revenue of over $450,000, considering a projected revenue of over $450,000 from the community waste management fee, accounting for continued normal waste disposal ticket sales and projected waste levy, the estimated revenue from those sources is also over $1 million, just under $1 million. And this does leave a shortfall of around $840,000 for waste management that would be required to be cross-subsidised from council revenue. So, as discussed, the raising of the community waste management fee, while not covering the complete cost of waste management, is expected to better subsidise the projected costs. And it should be noted that the future reviews of the waste management fee structure should work towards a system of user pays and also encourage waste reduction where appropriate. seek financial subsidisation from the Commonwealth Government. So, recommend that the council endorse the proposed community waste management fee put forward with the no fees and charges for public exhibition. And happy to answer any further questions you have.
Thank you. Just one question on the air freight of the waste off island at $1.20 a kilogram. Is that using aircraft that have come to the island to bring freight and leaving the island, taking the waste away with them at the same time? It's not a special service, just
No,
this
no.
purpose.
No.
Thank you. I understand the direction of this report is endeavouring to take the council. I've also taken on board the questioning the evidence that's going on in the public inquiry at the moment, the emphasis that is being put on examining why council has activity centres or service areas that it has the capacity to raise fees and charges to cover that council in the past has, for whatever reason, has not done so. And council assisting inquiry seemed to me to be going over and over with numerous of the witnesses why that is the situation, why when council has the capacity to raise revenue for these areas to effectively to cover their costs, and waste being one of those, but one, there are numerous other areas, why council, the inquiry or the council assisting the inquiry are asking why council has chosen not to do so. And I think this is one area which falls into that category of an area where council has the opportunity to charge a user for the service, and to this point in time, effectively, the service apart from the freight charge, the $41 a tonne that you've referred to, and the fees at the gate, the service is not recovering sufficient income to pay its way. And this is a move in that direction, although probably only taking us some way whilst you have further time to examine how a permanent system of change should be implemented. So I accept the report, and I accept the recommendations contained in the report, and I resolve that council endorse the proposed community waste management fee being put forward with the NERC fees and charges for public exhibition. I think the word B in the recommendation should be B. So resolved, and I'll move now back to item 6.1. Item 6.1 is a report from the General Manager on the draft budget and operational plan for 2021-2022. Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. The draft operational plan 2021-2022 comprises an income statement, cash flow statement, statement of financial position, capital budget, and income statement for all service/functional areas of council. The revenue policy shows the rating model and the fees and charges schedule. The 2021-22 budget projects projects a surplus of $500,000 after factoring in a depreciation expense of $6.8 million. This is a significant improvement in council's previous operational plans, and one that is focused primarily on returning financial stability to the organisation. The draft operational plan still presents several challenges moving forward, such as the target set by yourself for an efficiency of 5%. Along with this challenge, there are a number of key performance indicators the organisation must meet that equate to a further 5% around service improvements. These will be presented to Council by 31 December 2021. The financial assistance grant has increased by $604,000, which is a 12% increase on the $5.66 million of last year. Council's main source of revenue, user charges and fees, is forecast to increase by $3.4 million to $14.3 million, an increase of 30% on the 2020-21 budget figure of $11 million. Council forecast operating expenditure has increased by $2.9 million, which is an 11% increase. This is largely attributable to an increase of $2.4 million, 56% increase in depreciation expense, resulting from recognition of the reconstruction and repair work done in 2020-21 on the airport runway asset. The island has experienced a promising economic recovery following the end of COVID-related lockdowns on the mainland and the return of visitors. This has impacted on the operational and financial performance of business units, either directly or indirectly. Unlike 2020-21, where the focus was on managing costs to maintain services with much reduced revenue streams, in 21-22, the objective is to build up cash reserves via surpluses to fund future infrastructure investment and ensure council can continue to provide core services to the community. As we've just discussed, managing waste services continues to be a considerable cost for this community. The 21-22 waste budget is a deficit of $888,000. The cost of council's waste management activities is considerable, with the cost of operating the waste management centre alone averaging $750,000 per year. In addition, NERT's recent experience of exporting waste and recyclables to the mainland of Australia, while necessary, confirms the high costs associated with transport and disposal. To start to redress this financial position within waste service, the 21-22 operational plan recommends introducing a community waste management fee that will appear on the rate notices. The fee does not apply to farmland or lots with no residential or business properties. The deficit includes the forecasted revenue raised by this new fee. The airport is budgeted at a deficit of $580,000. Airport fees are forecast to increase based on predicted visitors to the island. The depreciation charge for the airport has increased significantly, and this is the main contributor to the deficit on the airport operations. Wastewater has a budget surplus of $60,000. Telecom has a budget surplus of $392,000. 2020-21 saw a major transition in telecom services offering as the new 3G, 4G mobile network and the new landline soft switch came online on 11th of January 2021. New services associated with the upgrade are forecast to improve telecom revenue streams. Telecom are negotiating a new 2-year satellite service agreement at a significantly cheaper rate than the previous provider. The surplus funds represent a return to council on its investment in the future-proofing telecommunications on Norfolk Island project and will be utilised to offset deficits incurred by other council operations. Electricity has a projected surplus of $750,000. The increase in the tariff from 70 to 74 cents per kilowatt is necessary to ensure that council can continue to maintain and upgrade this vital service to the Norfolk community. The surplus funds represent a return to council on investments made into the Tesla battery, which was $2 million installed earlier in 2021. Whilst the tariff has increased this year, we anticipate reducing this in future years as we move towards the 100% renewable energy target set by council in February 2020. This is supported this year by investment in capital items such as smart meters and replacing solar inverters that are nearing end-of-life operations. The capital budget for 21-22 is $7.188 million, funded by $3.5 million in grants and $3.6 million from revenue. Unfortunately, $3 million of necessary but not urgent capital expenditure has been delayed until 22-23 operational plan to enable council to follow its principle of sound financial management. The major focus on capital works for 21-22 year will be the road network, spending $1.8 million. This operational plan sees council commence rebuilding its cash reserves. The anticipated year-end cash position for 21-22 is 3.25 million. I commend this draft operational plan for public execution for 28 days and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. You just mentioned that $3.07 million of necessary but not urgent capital expenditure has been delayed. Can you give us some insight into what is going to fall wrong there, at least over the next 12 months?
The number of asset renewals, so vehicles, I can probably defer to management corporate finance who have intimate knowledge of what's being done.
Yes, there was, Mr. General Manager, there was cranes, there were a number of vehicles that had to be replaced, a number of key items in telecoms. So there are across a number of areas with various items that were delayed. I can provide you with a list of those.
Thank you. And I'm interested to understand, been through the operational plan tables that set out the performance criteria and the items included in the plan item by item. I'm particularly interested in the environmental and sustainability area where I see some changes, and one of which is the changes to waste management. I'm just wondering if I could get Mr. Reid to elaborate on some of the items included, and then I'm going to ask you, Mr. General Manager, if you could briefly tell me of some of the items from your previous version of the plan that may not be going further series to 21-22. Some brief thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. I think firstly it's important to point out that as part of the development of this operational plan, proposed operational plan for FY22, there has been an effort to consolidate and to rationalise a number of actions that have been brought forward in this financial year. And we've made a concerted effort to bring forward those important actions as they pertain to the community's strategic plan. I've got no doubt that the community is well aware of the challenges that we face here on Norfolk Island in regards to environmental issues, most notably waste management, water quality as well as water as a resource. And so I guess talking to each of those briefly, water quality, we propose and we actually have started making efforts in terms of developing a water quality working group, particularly with other government representatives to work through particularly water quality issues as they relate to the Cutler area and the downstream values of marine park, in particular in Inland Bay and Slaughter Bay, and working closely with them to on a number of actions. And I guess with regards to council's efforts in that space, we have a responsibility to work with the community and with landholders with regards to on-site septic systems. And so we will be developing as best we can a system for inspection of those systems throughout the 12 months. Noting though that our current legislative framework is cumbersome with regards to that, and so at the same time we're working through the Department of Infrastructure around harmonising legislation whereby that inspection system or that inspection program can be rolled out efficiently.
So if I could interrupt you just on that, is that a program that would be developed through the course of the next 12 months for implementation the following year? Or
most likely, Mr. Administrator, we believe that the program can be, the architecture of the program can be set up, and not talking too much detail, but the current environment has a lower standard for on-site septic systems, which is the prevailing legislation for the island. And we plan to work with the department, as mentioned, to try and harmonise legislation so that the local government act provisions for on-site septic systems would prevail, which they currently do not. So that will take time, but at least in parallel to that, we can work on a program, the framework and the architecture of a program so that it can be rolled out in the following financial year. And in lieu of that legislative framework, to work with landholders that wish to be worked with to improve the standard of their on-site system. Part of that would also be improving our development control plans for water and wastewater, which will be done in the near future.
Right, so any challenging regime for inspections or whatever other requirements there are, but the costs would not be something that would be introduced in this current,
Not
or in the
current
21-22 plan, but may be further down the track depending on the architecture that you design.
Correct. We see that there is, however unfortunate that it is, just a number of legislative hurdles to jump through. Legislation that can be rolled out appropriately, and therefore things associated with that will not be able to be rolled out until that point in time. With regards to waste management, and I'll touch on that before with the proposed community waste management fee. I guess on one hand, to put forward that fee without having a full opportunity to consult with the community more broadly on opportunities as it relates to waste management is recognised an unfortunate situation. However, as we've pointed out, there is a deficit with regards to our current waste management, and it's a necessary fee. But what I would like to point to is our proposal to consult with the community on those more positive initiatives that we would like to pursue. And if I can just talk to an opportunity that is, I guess, from a consolidated perspective before not just me, but the community at the moment, is to look at systems, or there are systems that are currently being proposed to the community around the recycling, particularly of plastics, which makes up a large proportion of our residual waste stream, and therefore makes up a large proportion of our freight disposal costs. So we will have an opportunity over the coming months as a community and as a council to look at opportunities for better waste management, which would in turn drive down costs, these large costs associated with waste management. And we plan to roll that out through a process, but at the same time develop a sustainability advisory group with key members of the community, representatives of key organisations and departments, to consult appropriately on that, and we wish to do that throughout the year and ongoing. So I guess that they're probably some of the key features, the newer features, if you like, of this operational plan compared to the previous plan. We do have plans in there around augmenting council's existing water resource infrastructure, which will further supplement not just council's needs, but perhaps in dry times the community's needs where we can support the broader community.
So again, is that analysis work rather than implementation?
We see that there is opportunity through some water infrastructure that's likely to come forward as part of the PFAS remediation work at the fire station, that we could then use that infrastructure afterwards as rainwater and therefore water resource infrastructure. We also have a building better regions fund application specifically for rainwater tanks around the island. Of course, that there's no certainty around that application, but if that was to come to fruition, then we would see that increase in capacity would materialise at least in part during the financial year. However, in lieu of that, then we would be, I guess, limited to what comes out of the PFAS remediation work, and which is still a reasonable amount of water from that system that would be put forward.
Thank you, Mr. Reid. Did you have anything further that you wanted to add to?
No, just that I think there's some fantastic opportunities in the environment space to work with the community, look at initiatives rather than the requirement to go out and seek further fees and charges to drive down costs associated, particularly with regards to waste. That's probably an exciting part.
Thank you. And General Manager, I wonder if you could just give me a quick summary of any sort of major or items that may have been considered to be major items from previous plans that would not be pursued in this 2021 draft plan.
Thanks, Mr. Administrator. From page 82 onwards, there's the operational plan that shows our targets, strategic direction, and taking council. You'll see there's a significant change in the presentation of this part of the plan. It's where I suppose this is a significant change being it's very much local government business orientated now, and ever so much being driven by some particular things that council has set over a period of time. So the objectives, strategic direction, objectives that council set early in 2016 still remain, as does the referring to the strategic direction and then an objective that was set by council. They remain in place, but what we've done to every one of the actions and performance measures that were placed is that we've linked them now to the strategic action plan that council adopted in February 2020, because that was a document recognised by our external audit and I think even by the public inquiry of really good strategic work. So we've now linked one of the 9 strategic action plans to each of the actions, so we're linking those two. But more importantly, the very detailed work that we had done on the external audit findings is now linked to every single action and measure that's within this thing. So that's quite a considerable change to the way we've had it, but a very important change to show that this council is very focused towards the work that it committed to, which is the strategic action plan, and then also the outcomes of the external audit. That being said, there's also considerable actions that have been placed in here that are very much local government orientated. There were some in there that were more for lobbying and the like, and in this year's plan we've tried to bring us back to our core activities so that we can get on top of some of the requirements of change. So, and that was primarily driven by the external audit findings and what we've done on the people.
I think it's fair to say that there's so much to be done arising from those external audit findings that will take council up for a couple of years to roll that out.
Yes.
And in the meantime, there may be other things that would otherwise have flown through the operational plan that would be good to do, but some things have to give in order to be able to give priority to the things that we have committed to fixing the items that come up through that process.
Yes.
I wonder if I could just focus on one of the business units. I understand there's a table on page 7 which sets out the surplus or deficit for waste management, the airport, sewer, telecom and electricity business units. And I understand that the first line there, the waste management, has been fully covered by what you and Mr. Reid have already said. Although there is still a deficit there of nearly $900,000 for 2021, 2022. The deficit would, but for the fee that's proposed to be introduced, have been a much bigger figure. So we're moving towards cost recovery, but certainly not there in this particular budget. And I understand that, that whatever things is coming out of the further analysis that Mr. Reid has foreshadowed may enable some efficiencies to be returned rather than just recovering that $888,000 from the public. There may well be some efficiency measures which drive down costs. So if there is a call on the community to fund the heroes, that's something that can be determined over the next year or so. But with regard to the airport, I'm curious as to when we've just seen an example of a massive expenditure item at the airport, and we have a budget which, with depreciation, which is a much greater figure now because of the value of the asset that's been added to the airport through the reselling process. I'm intrigued as to why you have not chosen to recommend a break-even budget, and I say that in the light of one reading the transcripts of the public inquiry in terms of here's a business where costs can be recovered without putting all of the burden on landowners in the way that rates and waste charges does, that here is a cost that could be recovered, so that the cross-subsidisation from council's other areas of income or other revenue areas are not required to pay an efficiency on a business unit. And I'm just wondering if you could comment on that for me, please.
Mr. Administrator, at present, our airport revenue streams are directly from a user fee, a user charge, and it's attributed to each ticket that travels in and out. Roughly, from memory, it's about $52.50, I think, per movement, so that's in and out. That's what's recommended in this draft operational plan today. To break even, that would probably require the charge to go up $15 each direction, so that would take it to $67.50 each direction. If that was the case, then that would make the airport operation come out at zero, which is fully funded depreciation. In essence, that could then be put aside into an asset reserve, primarily for replacement of the asset in 10 to 12 years' time.
By the asset, you mean the runway again needs to be done again. And there are assets that will require replacement over time.
Yeah, lights and even the terminal requires substantial work on it as well. So to make that a break even, that would require maybe a fee increase would need to go to let's say $67.50.
And just so I'm not missing anything, is there any particular reason why other areas of council's revenue should cross-subsidise the airport?
No, it should probably, as it would be in most other jurisdictions, it would be self-funded. Certainly is in areas that have large traffic movement. We've still got a relatively small traffical numbers that come through the airport. It's about 24,000 on average for the last 4 or 5 years. So that's, in terms of other jurisdictions, that's quite small still. But there's no reason why any other part of council should fund something that is primarily user charge. So
if council was to remove that cross-subsidy, the benefit then would flow to ratepayers in terms of reduced anticipation that rates will increase over time if the rates are not contributing and other areas of council's revenues are not contributing to the deficit of the airport operation.
Yeah, that's exactly what it would do, and it would just crystallise the airport as a business unit running its own steam, and so that wouldn't be asking anybody else to contribute.
In line with what is being submitted over and over again through the past week of the inquiry by the council assisting the commissioner, that council has not taken the opportunity that it could have taken to run these businesses at a break-even at least, if not at a surplus.
I think in the past the airport has either broken even or provided a surplus. It's just this year was quite a considerable increase in revenue expenses, and that's
because of the depreciation.
So I think that would be the best way to describe that.
Okay. Just before I make a decision in relation to this item, I'll just point out that this draft provision of plan proposed for final adoption at this stage, but for placement on public exhibition to give the community an opportunity to have a say in relation to what the plan contains. There's a lot of information in these plans, and I would urge members of the community who are watching the council meeting or listening to the council meeting to go to council's website and get a hold of the draft operational plan and budget containing revenue policy for 2021-22, so that you have the opportunity to go through and make any submissions or comments back to council over the next 28 days before the documents come back to me as council for final consideration and the view to adopting something for 21-22. So, having said that, I'm going to resolve two paragraphs. One, that the draft airport fees be proposed at a level to run the service at 2020 after allowing for depreciation in the 2021-22 revenue policy. And two, that apart from the airport, which is to be dealt with as stated, the council adopts the draft operational plan for 2021-22 and places the plan on public exhibition for 28 days, asking for submissions on all parts of the plan, excluding the rating structure, as this has already been attended to in a separate report, but including activities, revenue policy, the proposed fees and charges, and the proposed budget for 2021-2022. And I will move to item 7.1, which is the draft 2019-2020 financial statements for referral to audit. Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Mr. Administrator. I'll leave the details to Manager Finance, but as a background, draft annual financial statements for 2019-20 are now presented to you, and we're requesting referral to audit in accordance with section 416 of the local government. I'll hand across to the manager now to give a bit more detail on why we're here and why we're asking for this today.
Yes, the financial statements for 2019-2020 were provided to the auditors in October last year, 2020. At the time, they were progressed by the audit committee. However, under the Government Act, they were required to be formally passed through to council for approval so that they could be forwarded to audit, and that step was overlooked. So the auditors have undertaken the audit of the financial statements and working with the auditors to sign off on the report. They require a formal referral of the audit statement of the draft financial statements from the council to the auditors. And that's what's being implemented today.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I guess effectively we're talking about something that's almost ancient history now, because another year is about to chalk over in a few days time, and we'll commence on preparation of the 2021 financial statements. So I recognise that this process is taken along with that ordinary would take. Effectively, the financial result is what it is, and I understand that. And I have gone through the statements myself and had a look at them, and I understand the result. And I resolve that one, council notes the following statements in respect of section 4132C of the Local Government Act 1993, New South Wales, Norfolk Island, as to its 2019-2020 financial statements. A, council's draft financial statements for 2019-2020 have been drawn up in accordance with the Local Government Act 1993, New South Wales, Norfolk Island, and the regulations made thereunder, the Australian Accounting Standards and Professional Pronouncements, and the Local Government Code of Accounting Practice and Financial Reporting. B, the statements present fairly the council's operating result and financial position for the year. C, the statements are in accordance with the council's accounting and other records. And D, council is not aware of any other matter that would render this report false or misleading in any way. 2, that the draft financial statements for 2019-2020 be referred to the council's auditors for audit. 3, that the statement by council and management for the general purpose financial statements be signed by the interim administrator, general manager, and the responsible accounting officer. And 4, that council delegates to the general manager the authority to give public notice for the presentation of the auditor's report and financial statements as per section 418 of the Local Government Act 1993, New South Wales, Norfolk Island. So resolved. So that brings us to item 9. Mr. General Manager, is there any urgent business for that notice?
Nil.
Item 10, any questions from this council meeting?
Nil.
Nil for the record. Is there any other business, Mr. General Manager, before I close the meeting?
No, there's not.
Thank you. Then I declare the meeting closed at 4:46 p.m. and I thank everybody for their